Garuccio, and it's their leading goal scorer and captain, Stef.
I've never seen that logo in my fucking life.
We've got Alex Paulson.
Yeah. Again, it was a bit strange, but
It's grey area.
we need more football specific, smaller stadiums. The debacle with Suncorp. Another moment where football just gets fucked, royally fucked.
Rafael Borges Rodriguez got his move.
There's a bit of a connection, isn't there?
Yeah, he's actually dating my cousin. So
Rafael streak.
something came out about Brisbane Roar's following.
65k they had, and when I last checked, they were about 105k. So this can change the way we look to monetize the league.
Hello guys, and welcome back for season 24-25 of the A-League. It's just around the corner now, and we're back for our annual season preview. We did this last season. It went on for quite a while. We've decided to go quite in-depth again this year, and there's a new team on the block as well to preview this year.
Yeah, 13 teams last year. I was in Japan. You were obviously here in Melbourne. We decided to do this podcast, just a spur of the moment thing. We kind of got together, chatted over a couple of weeks, and yeah, we got the product out. Probably wasn't as good as this year's. We're in person. We've got the setup going. We've got the jerseys behind us. So hopefully you'll enjoy listening to us again. There's not a lot of content out there previewing the team. So we've done our best with our research, messaging a few players at different teams, pre-season results. But I think we're good to go.
Let's get into it. First up, we got your boys, the Reds.
The Reds, and we're just coming off a disappointing result, obviously, with losing in the semi-final of the Cup to Melbourne Victory, but I think the performance was really good. Obviously, you were in the stand, so you can maybe be a better judge of that. You're a neutral compared to me, but we played really good football. Obviously, going far in the Cup competition is the most important for, I think, just the confidence in getting competitive games, but we kind of built on each game. We were working on different things, and I felt like as each kind of round went by, we were getting better with the ball, we're getting better without the ball. Still in the final third is probably where we're lacking, not individually as in, we're lacking players. I think it's just that combinations, finishing the chances off. I could have scored 3 or 4. Zach Clough had a few chances. Austin had a few chances. Yaya, when he came on another day, we scored 4 or 5. Not saying Victory didn't have chances as well, but yeah, overall, I think we're happy. The ins for us is not too many. The outs is a little bit more. So we've lost a lot of experience. Ibasuki, who scored a lot of goals last year for us, is come over to Western United. Ben Halloran has left. Nesta Irukunda, obviously the star boy, is gone. Ben Warland, Van der Sarg, Nick Ansell, Lockie Barr, Musa Toure. It's a lot of outs.
Yeah. Ibasuki's the one for me, obviously. Your loss is our gain, but 15 goals last season. Probably his best year since he's been in Australia. Look, like he's been unbelievable for us, even just in pre-season. You see how smart he is. So I think that's probably, if I had to pick out maybe a weak point for you boys, obviously you've got the young boys, Luca, and also Archie Goodwin.
Yeah.
But I suppose they're unproven at this point in time. We might look back at this at the end of the season and go, you know what, we're fucking idiots. But at the moment, it's a chance for one of them to step up and nail down that number 9 spot. But I think you boys have looked good, to be honest, in the cup games. Not just saying that because you're next to me, but I think the Western Sydney game especially was probably your best performance, and the Victory game was unlucky. Could have went either way. You can see it in the 89th minute. But I think overall, pretty positive pre-season for you boys.
Yeah, we've played a lot of games, and I guess the disadvantage of being, a one-town team is it's hard to play friendly games against A-League opposition because you've obviously either got to get a team to come down or you've got to fly somewhere. Because we've been progressing in the Cup, it's been hard to fit them in. But we've played a lot of local league teams, and I think you can see in our performances in the Cup, we've gone to extra time twice, we're fit, and we probably, even speaking to Django, our strength and conditioning coach, maybe we haven't done as many big sessions compared to previous years, which I'm sure he's disappointed about. The players are probably happy. 4-minute runs, sprint sprinting sessions haven't been, the key focus because we've played a lot of 11v11 games, whether it's against state league or NPL teams. And I think, you play football, so the best way to get fit is by playing football games. And I know it sounds obvious, but because of that, we've gone into these cup games, we've run them out really well, even against Victory. I thought it was going to extra time again.
Would have been the third one?
Yeah, third one, and you would have probably been disappointed sitting in the stands. It was cold. You wanted to get home, but I think we're getting better. We're strong. I think we will only improve. We've obviously brought Ben Falami in last minute, Jordan Elsey in, deadline day signings. Falami will play winger striker, so we've got a few different options. Against Victory, we played myself and Ryan White, young boys, the 9 and the 10. So, we can mix it up. I think that's important to kind of have that, different system that you can play because you never know what's going to happen during the season. But as I said, Falami came in, Elsie came in, Archie Goodwin's in, Dylan Pereiras, our good mate, is in, Max Vartalu, the goalkeeper from Sydney FC, he's looked really good. Obviously, he's not been on the bench yet, but he's another good young prospect. And I think as a young goalkeeper, you wouldn't want to go to any other team. Maybe again biased, but Eugene Galekovic has developed. Joe Gauchi. We've had Stevie Hall. 2 young keepers come through, both been sold. Huge is one of the best that there is. So. He's probably wanted to come and work under him. And the last one, Bart Vrijns, Dutch centre-back from Sparta Rotterdam, Craig Goodwin's mate, big podcaster from the Netherlands. And we're going to need to get him on because he's a big deal there. They've got the number 1 podcast, I think, for sport in the Netherlands.
Yeah, right.
So
we might have to... We'll get him on at some stage. But is it Bart Vrijns or Bart Vrens? Because that would be perfect. Football friends with Bart Vrens.
Oh, we can say whatever we want, can't we? He won't know.
It rolls off the tongue.
It actually is quite good. Maybe he can be the third person if we need one.
Potentially. He's just going to have to speak in English though, not Dutch.
Yeah, and he's not comfortable yet. But I think he'll be really good. He's just, when the foreigners come in, it happens with a lot of them when they first come here. I think flying across the world, new environment, the pitches are different here, the training's different. You're just adjusting to so much. And when you get one small niggly injury, then the next one comes. And he should be good to go for the start of the season. They really just want to protect him and get him ready. If we were in the final, maybe he could have been okay for that. But fingers crossed he's good to go because he looks like a real proper defender. And someone that I think him and Kikianis, Elsie, those 3 is good competitions with Isaias and Javi Lopez who have shown that they can play there. We've got the depth. So we'll see. But for me, the talking points are really just around, young players. Can they take their chances? We don't have the depth of maybe some of the bigger clubs. So it's about the younger players getting chances, which we're going to give them the chances. Colby, it's obviously done that. The club has shown we want to promote young SA players, whether they take those chances, whether we can find someone. I think, myself, Clough, Ayubi, Pereiras, Falami, we need to combine because Luka Jovanic and Archie Goodwin, we're probably not going to have someone scoring 15 to 20 goals individually. But if all of us can get, 7 to 10, maybe it's not the individual, but we've got 4 or 5 that can get those numbers. And that's what we need. And we'll see. But I've gone for Kikianis as my breakout player for us. I think he's shown in pre-season on the ball. He's very, very comfortable. He wants to play those passes through the lines. He's not afraid to kind of go for that riskier pass. And I think just defensively, he needs to get stronger. He's a young centre-back, but he'll learn off Elsie and Bart. But he's my breakout player and star player. I'm going to go for Falami.
I think it's a good shout.
I think he's been underdone at Victory maybe the last year or 2 with his injuries and not being the number 1 winger. You want to feel like the man, don't you? As that attacking player, you want to feel like, I know I'm playing every week. Not saying that you just deserve it. It's not a given right. But you're playing in this Victory team where you've got 3 or 4 other wingers. You had Khalifi, you had Arzani, you had Velufale, probably other players that can play there.
Economides.
Yeah. So it's tough to break in there, and you're in, you're out. Where at Adelaide, once he gets in, it's his position to lose, you'd say. So I'm going Ben Falami. I think he'll get a lot of assists, a lot of goals. So I'm excited to see what he's got to offer.
Yeah, I honestly think that's a really smart signing from Adelaide. I think he's someone that at his best, he was, in the Socceroos not that long ago. So it's easy for a player like that to kind of, you kind of forget about how good he can be. But I think if he hits the ground running, and Adelaide's, it's tried and tested that club. Honestly, you can go there as a young player, you do well, and all of a sudden you can be overseas within a year or two. So hopefully for him, he does hit the ground running, and for you boys. But we'll go on to next, the newcomers, Auckland. And there's obviously no outs, but there is quite a lot of ins. I'm not going to go through the whole team, but you've got Alex Paulson. I think that's a huge signing, obviously, with the links to Bournemouth and the ownership. It was, only right that he came back, but it's a little bit tasty.
They changed the rule. There was the Caceres rule that they took out.
Yeah,
so
exactly right.
It wasn't like they announced the player signing before the rule had been put through, which... Yeah, again, it's a bit strange, but
it's grey area.
Yeah, it's a grey area. I think it's the way football's going. There's too many multi-club owners. You can't have that stopping it. I think we need to get to the point where there's just a complete domestic transfer system where, if you want to buy a player, if Melbourne Victory want to buy a player from Adelaide United, or if we want to buy a player from Adelaide City,
and that
needs to come in,
and that can't go into the salary cap. Obviously, that needs to be outside. If you want a player and you're willing to pay the money, then you should be able to get them. That's how it is all over the world. But
Agreed.
That's going to be a bit of a tasty one when they come up against the Knicks, because they had a great season last year. He was a standout player. They were so strong in defence, especially. So that's going to be a big one. And they've actually formed. I think their back four is really, really strong. The players that they've managed to get in. You've got Dan Hall from Central Coast, obviously coming off a couple of Central Coast probably best ever years. Hiroki Sakai, who comes over with massive pedigree, played a long time in France. He's played at the top division, so he's going to be a massive player and a potential guest on the podcast this year. I think I might have to speak to my Japanese connection at Western United and see if they can get it over the line. You got Scotty Galloway as well, coming over from Melbourne City. An experienced player in the A-League. I think he was probably underappreciated at Melbourne City for what he did in the year when they won the grand final the first time. He was unbelievable, and then went on to hardly play. So Jake Brimmer coming off probably underwhelming couple of years, the last two with Melbourne Victory. I think after the year where he was just unbelievable and you couldn't stop him. So he, for me, is their player in focus. I think if he gets back to full fitness, everyone knows what he can do. So they've put Tommy Smith as well, another experienced defender. I think he's worn the captain's armband a couple of times for him in pre-season as well. And then their foreigners, you've got Louis Verstraete. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly. He's 25 years old from Belgium. He's playing in the Belgium second division, but he's a centre mid. You've got Luis Felipe Gallegos, who's 32. He's Chilean, centre mid as well. Played 25 games for Crete last season, so he's coming from Greece, a decent club as well. And then Guillermo May, who's 26 years old, a striker, Uruguayan, came from Newell's Old Boys in Argentina. So, look, I think, as is usually the case with the foreigners that are coming into the league, you don't know too much about them. I think if they're coming over here for the right reasons, they come with good intentions, they're willing to work hard and buy into the culture here in Australia and New Zealand, they can be really, really successful. But I think it's going to have to be a wait and see.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is like you've got 23, 25, 27, however many players they're going to sign, and they're all new. So you've got a completely new club. They've been travelling a lot in the pre-season to get games in, because obviously, no disrespect to the New Zealand local leagues there, but it's obviously not the level they want to be testing themselves at. So they've come to Sydney, they've been in Melbourne, we were just staying at the hotel with them. But they've got to form all new relationships, and it's difficult. It's not a simple thing, but from what some of the boys at the hotel were saying, like their owner is obviously cashed up and he's investing. He wants to hit the ground running. They want to obviously get the support there. They want to get the fans up and about. And when Wellington played there, they were getting big crowds, 15 to 20,000. So they could be, maybe the most attended team in the league, to be honest.
Yeah.
That could be a shout. Them and maybe Sydney FC with Costa obviously coming. It's going to be interesting, but I'm excited. It's good. We want new teams. It would have been great to have 2 new teams, so we're not having a bye, but we need something exciting in the league. We need someone to kind of come out from nowhere, and they look like a good team to do, or at least push for the top 2 spots, top 4 spots, I would say, based on their recruitment anyway.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think they're playing Go Media Stadium, it's called, in Auckland. It holds 25,000. So it'll be, like, it's actually huge for New Zealand football. It's huge for young, aspiring footballers in New Zealand. You know, for so long, it was just one club there, Wellington. Now they've got a derby, a local derby. So it actually is, it's massive for New Zealand football. Hopefully it can be a big success, obviously. It's the owner's, it's not his first club. So he's obviously got other football clubs. He's got other sporting clubs as well. He's a billionaire, which also helps. So, look, as long as a club's coming in and trying to do the right things in terms of, you know, spending the money, giving the players the best that they can get and making the club successful, that's all you can ask for. You want a new franchise to come in and be successful, but that obviously comes with its challenges in setting up a whole new corporation. So, Steve Corica's the man in charge, so he's got plenty of experience in the league. I'm sure he's got a bit of a point to prove as well after the way things went with Sydney FC. Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting one. For my breakout player, I've got a young local New Zealand talent, Liam Gillian. I'm not sure if it's Gillian or Gillian, but he's 21 years old. He's a winger. He came from Auckland City. I think played 12 games last season, 9 goals, 2 assists. So I've had a bit of an inside scoop. I'm not going to say who from, but I've had an inside scoop that he could be the breakout player. So, yeah, I've gone for him. And look, I really hope that it can be a success, Auckland.
Yeah. Well, that's enough on them. We've spoken about them. We'll see. We'll see how they go. On to Brisbane Roar next, a team that has had a lot of outs and a lot of ins.
It's a long list here, isn't it?
It seems like, I think that's kind of the way a lot of the teams have gone like this. By doing our research, it's taken a lot longer because I think the TV rights, the changing of the approach of we want young players, but also now everybody's kind of going for, all right, how can we find that diamond in the rough, like a Tulio or a Torres, a Docker that Central Coast have done so well at in recruiting these players from South America who are cheaper, but you get them in and you can potentially sell them to Asia. So you win championships with them and then you make some money. So, and I think with football, with the way we've got technology now, you can scout players. It's a bit of money ball. And if you're not going for your star recruits, it's probably, okay, well, who can we get that is young enough that if we play them, they can potentially get sold back to Europe or Asia. It's a big market. So I like the approach from a lot of the A-League teams in Brisbane. Some of their big ins, probably the biggest, which nobody expected this, and nobody had even heard of this player, but Rafael Strik, who's obviously Indonesian Dutch, who Australia just played against and drew 0-0. He's come in with 4 million followers on Instagram. He's another one to get onto the podcast because that could go very viral.
Honestly, didn't what something came out about Brisbane Roar's following after the sign went up by like 30 or 40,000.
65k they had, and when I last checked, they were about 105k. So we'll see the numbers probably floating above us right now.
Far out.
And yeah, I think, and again, without going into too much detail into this, this is another way where clubs in Australia can be smarter because Asia is such a big market, and understanding sponsorship, TV rights deals, this can change the way kind of we look to monetize the league. They're owned by the Bakaris, who are Indonesian, so there must be some strings there, but 4 million followers on Instagram. Indonesia has hundreds of millions of people. They all love football. You saw 80,000 there in Indonesia watching them against the Socceroos. They love football. So if we can look to go into your, probably your lower Asian leagues like your Indonesia, Malaysia, potentially Vietnam, countries where they've got a big population, a big football following, and get their star players who want to come to probably a better league like Australia. Maybe they're not good enough for Korea or Japan. We get them here, they play well, they either get bigger money moves back into Asia or to Europe, or they stay here and enjoy the lifestyle. So I'm excited to see how he goes. I think Brisbane Roar with Casper Tafter and Zach Anderson, who we had last year on here, are smart operators. They've understood the way the club's going, and I'm interested to see what comes from that. But they've taken a few Adelaide United boys. They've gone for Ben Halloran, Ben Warland, Harry van der Sarg, so 3 players that obviously
Done the swoop.
yeah, were with us last year, and they've all gone up there. I think they're enjoying the warmer sun, and hopefully they will do really well. Benny Halloran's a Brisbane boy, so he's a top player if he gets back to his best. And then some other players of note who, again, kind of, left the field players. Waleed Shower, if I've said it right, Lebanese, he played, I think, against Central Coast Mariners in the AFC Cup last year. Probably a cheaper player, but if you get him and he does well, someone that's proven they can do well in Asia. Zimmerino's come across from Perth Glory. Nisa Acosta, if that's pronounced correctly. Again, Ecuadorian, younger player, if he does well, Tulio-esque. Interesting to see. And then once could be like a Harrison Delbridge 2.0 is your centre-back Marcus Ferkanis, if I've said that correctly. He's come from LA Galaxy, the second team I think it was there. So he's an Aussie and a USA international, can play for them. Same as Delbridge when he came across to Melbourne City, and look at what he did in the league. Not saying it's going to happen, but interesting to see how he goes. And they've just signed 7 Queenslanders, which they've come out and said that they want to promote youth. They want to be, Queensland focused club, which I think all clubs should be doing, looking in their own backyard first. So it's good that they've given 7 young players an opportunity. And then their outs, really, you've got Milasunic, Truan, Rojas, Aldred, Gomolku, Armiento, Henry Hoare, which is a strange one, he's gone on loan until the end of the season in Korea. So I'm not sure if that's, potentially going to turn into a permanent move, depends how he does. But interesting to see how they go. Zadkovic's first full pre-season with them. He did quite well when he came in, I thought. Style of play changed.
It was tough. I think it was really tough for him. They went through 3 coaches last year. This time last year, we were talking about Brisbane as contenders. And honestly, the way they started, they were fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
But you get, those things happening. It's just, it kind of interrupts it a little bit. Obviously Ben Khan coming in and then unfortunately everything that he went through. So I think they were a little bit unlucky last season. I think had Ross stayed there for the whole season, they could have been Smokies. Yeah. But I think going into this season, it's a little bit, you maybe don't know as much about them. Obviously they had a great cup run last season. So look, they're going to be another one just to kind of wait and see, I think. Yeah. We're
playing them now that we didn't make the final. We've got them in a couple of weeks. So I'll see how they go. But the latest thing to come out of there is the debacle with Suncorp as well. Another moment where football just gets fucked, royally fucked, you can say, politely anyway, where, they've had it booked in. They then have, I think it was Luke Combs, who then just gets booked in, and it's a game against us. So we get pushed to a Tuesday instead of playing on the Saturday or Sunday. But if they've got 2 concerts there, it's going to be ruined the field. And this is exactly why we need more football-specific, smaller stadiums. And they've actually, I think they came out before in the Olympic report when they were saying they wanted it years back, was they've got the eyes on, they need a 20, 30,000 seater stadium. That was in their report. And now they're saying, we're not going to put in any money for a football stadium. They don't want to do any permanent infrastructure for the Olympics. But Football Queensland, Brisbane Roar, I think Football Australia need to come out and just literally say, you're not getting any Matildas or Socceroos game unless you invest into Perry Park, which is not just for Brisbane Roar, it's not just for Football Queensland, but it can be for the Matildas, it can be for the Socceroos potentially, for smaller games, or the under-20s, whatever it is. But the home of football up in Brisbane at the moment, I don't think they have anything where you've got here in Melbourne, a new one that's been done, in South Australia, in Perth. They need to have something there, and that would be perfect. 20,000, and start doing the stages. If it's 10,000 seaters first, perfect. But they need to get out of Suncorp because they're not having any luck. And the breakout player for them, I know he's not young, but I'm actually going to go with the Van der Sarg. I know he's not a young player, but I feel like he had a lot of injuries at Adelaide. I saw firsthand the bruiser. He's a very, very strong.
He's fucking hard. He's hard to play against.
He's a machine.
Honestly,
if he gets his body right, he'll do really well. So he's my breakout player, and star player. I think I said the same one last year. Jay O'Shea. He's another year older, but I still think everything ticks through him. He's just so good on the ball. If they want to do well, you need him to be performing. But a lot of the new players could come in and kind of shock us as well. So interesting to see how the Brisbane Roar go. But yeah, let's wait and see.
Okay, on to the next. We've got Central Coast. In case you guys haven't realised, we're doing this in alphabetical order this year. So if you're waiting for your team, you're going to have to work it out yourself. But Central Coast, another team, look, they've been victims of their own success for the last couple of years now. I think probably last year everyone was a bit quick to kind of write them off, and then look what they did. So I won't be writing them off this year, although their outs are just... I know the year before they had a lot of outs. Obviously you had your Silveras, you had your... Tullio left, you had Jason Cummings that left. This year, I feel like their outs are maybe not as big players, but it's the spine of their team, which I worry about. You've got Vukovic, your captain, your leader, so much experience. You got Farrell, who's a big part of the back four. He's been great. He's gone to Portsmouth, which is a well-deserved move. Dan Hall obviously leaving, and then you've got your engine room, Josh Nisbet and Max Ballard, both being rewarded for their couple of seasons. So, look, I don't know. I don't want to say that they're going to struggle. I think Mark Jackson has to be applauded for the job that he's done, because it's honestly phenomenal what they've managed to do in the last couple of years. Last year they had Asia as well. Yeah. They're going to have it again this year. They dealt with it unbelievably last season, and then they went through the absolute ringer with some of their trips to Bali, where they're waiting 30 hours to get home.
I think Lebanon as well was the one.
They got
stuck there for 2 days.
Yeah, the boys were hiking.
Korean barbecue, so maybe they were happy about that. But I actually just read an article that came out about him, and he spoke a lot about the struggles, obviously, but the mindset, and everything they do is calculated. Everything they talk about is overcoming these challenges. Yeah, because you'd know as well as me, football can be very toxic. The teams, the change rooms, if things go against you, you're stuck at an airport, you can complain about it, or you can just fucking get on with it.
Exactly.
And I think they've got a real big emphasis on that, everything they do. And I was reading that they said that I think they were struggling to close games out or something along those lines. So they started to train harder to get the boys fatigued. So when they were fatigued, they were able to handle the pressure. And, you train the way you play, and you're putting the players in that situation in training to know, all right, this is how they're going to handle it, to know, all right, who can do it on the weekend. And, that appointment from, losing Monty, who again, like you spoke about the players, but they lost their coach.
Absolutely.
An assistant coach.
Master stroke,
they brought Mark Jackson in, and now he's gone out. He's had to do another rebuild. It'll be interesting. They played all right the other night against
I think
the Chinese team.
Their system is just... It's so well-oiled, their system, the 4-4-2, the way they just sit. It's so hard to break down. You saw, obviously, they lost, but it's going to be very, very hard to play against. It was very, very hard to play against, and I think they've managed to build that culture as well. So I think their ins are strong as well, to be honest. There's not a heap, but there wasn't a heap of outs either. So they do still have a lot of that quality. They've got players now that have experienced grand finals. They've experienced Asia, so they're becoming much more experienced. But they've brought in Pavlicic, goalkeeper, to replace Danny Vukovic from Sydney FC. So he's young. I spoke to Tommy Hewitt-Bell, actually said he's a really good keeper. So
that's keepers union.
That's key. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
even if he was a stinker.
Tommy maybe doesn't give me too much sometimes with goalkeepers, but. Obviously Trent Sainsbury brought him in. He's going to be the skipper as well. He's 32, so he's older, but he's had a great career.
Is he only 32? I thought he would have been older. He's been out of the system, like he's in the Aussie team for a couple of years. Yeah. But he looked good. He had his socks very low on his shorts. Did you notice that?
Did you rate that?
I rated it. I didn't think he used to do that, but. Maybe because it
Maybe
was hot in
he's
China. It was hot in China, I reckon.
Yeah, but or Qatar most recently. So,
Yeah,
he's
new style, but I like his quality on the ball.
yeah,
Good leadership.
and just a great player. Like he's got so much experience. He's been at massive clubs. You
Have
know,
to get him on here, to be honest.
Honestly, yeah, Inter Milan. You know, so he'll be he'll be coming back with his pockets full. I reckon that's fair to say. But they got Moragas as well to replace Farrell, which honestly for me, I think Moragas is probably one of the best young left backs in the league. Even at Newcastle in a team that wasn't doing that well, I think he's very athletic. He's a good player, so that's another little smart signing. And then they've brought in Alfie McCalmont, who's only 24, came from Carlisle, but he had time at Leeds, so I think there's a bit of a connection there. With Mark Jackson, he's obviously someone that he sees as a player that can come to Australia and do really well. So that'll be a wait and see. They signed Sabit Ngor from Heidelberg, who obviously had a great season in the MPL. They had a little cup run there as well. So he's been rewarded for his performances in the MPL. He was actually with me at Western United. He's he's actually a really, really good kid. Works really hard. So I actually hope he gets a good chance there, and we'll see how he goes. And then the last one is Vitor Feijão, which who knows? We might have to do a bloopers on some of these pronunciations, but he's 28 years old, Brazilian. Is it another Torres? Is it another Tulio? We'll see. He's played mostly in Brazil.
He played in the game.
He played.
He looked alright. I thought like small winger. Kind of like a bit of like Douglas Costa about it.
Yeah, you don't know. Well, obviously we'll get onto that afterwards. But we've got the real Douglas Costa here this year. So we'll see. Like for me, Torres at the start of last season, I thought doesn't look anything special.
He didn't look like he looked product.
Exactly right. He was really good. I remember I think the first game of the season against Adelaide, and he was beating the players, but then his product, but then it just came. And once it clicks and you start to feel comfortable in this league, you get that confidence. Player. So, look, my breakout player, I've actually got two here, which I don't know if you're allowed to do that. But I've put in DiPizio. He's still so young. Scored in that grand final last season. He's been through. He's got that experience now, I think. But the other one is also Brad Tapp. I think obviously losing Ballard, losing Nisbet, he's a player that I think can actually come in and fill that role. And I saw in one of the friendlies, he was actually wearing the captain's armband. So I think he's only 23 years old. So I think if you've got that vote of confidence from your gaffer, you're probably in a not bad position to kick on and have a good season.
A Ballard 2.0, to be honest. Like,
exactly.
He looks like in the similar mould. So we'll see.
And then just to finish off, they got player in focus. And I've gone a bit left of field here. This is someone who probably at the start of last season you're thinking, I'm not sure about this guy. Then all of a sudden gets the nod to start playing in the right midfield role and just look like a completely different player. And that's Mikael Docker. So he's I think you can already see he's like building that confidence now. I think he's starting to feel more like the main man. And he's got that little bit of license of freedom, so he's got that end product for a right back. He finishes really well, takes penalties. He's already scored, I think, 2 or 3 penalties this preseason. So
interesting. Yeah, but it was interesting how they built up in that game. They had Moragas actually as part of the back three, which Farrell was doing, and probably limits Moragas in his attacking strengths. But obviously, they want to give Docker the license, and he was kind of like. Not really. They had the Brazilian who was on the right wing as well, Feijão. And Docker was kind of a bit more inside, but getting forward. So I guess they can change that up. They'll be able to mix it up. But it'll be interesting because the juggling Asia, but also it's an advantage because they're getting a few more games in before the season starts.
Yeah, exactly.
But the competition they're in this year is a bit different to the one last year when they were playing against the teams from the Philippines and Myanmar.
Well, you've seen already.
Now you're playing against
first game
top clubs.
Yeah,
But what an experience.
Oh, it's unbelievable, and honestly, hopefully they can keep doing well, because we want our Aussie teams doing well in Asia. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's going to be better for our competition.
And rule number 1, if you score against the Chinese teams, don't jump the fence and celebrate in front of their fans, because the keepers don't like that. So that was...
Did he get a booking as well?
Yeah, I don't know why he got a booking.
Maybe there was words.
No, I don't, and the keeper didn't get booked, and he's the one that... It was weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Referees in Asia are a bit of a disaster, to be honest.
Case.
You could get a mixed bag, and it's... Yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
Let's not say too much before we get in trouble, but we'll go MacArthur, and we can kind of run through this one together, because we do have an uneven amount of teams this year, but they've obviously been rattled with obviously a few players getting suspended. I think De Villa is the obvious one that you need to talk about, because he's a gun, and he was probably one of the best players in the league for the last 4 or 5 years. I would say it's someone that you weren't looking forward to playing against, because he seemed to always be able to get half a yard.
Yeah.
He had that final pass, could score goals, and he was their captain as well.
Yeah.
So it's a massive out. And then you've obviously got Clayton Lewis and Kieran Backus as well. Matty Miller went to Tajikistan. Lockie Rose, they lost him down the road to Newcastle. Tommy Smith, as we already mentioned, went to Auckland. Rafael Borges Rodriguez got his move, which I think was fully deserved. I think he was
great move, and that's what you want for young players 100%. To play, and then you sell them, make some good money off them, and then reinvest that. So
He hardly played at Melbourne City.
Yeah,
and I think for that kind of tells the story for young players that are at those clubs, like your Melbourne Cities, like your Sydney FCs. Sometimes all you need is that change of environment. You go to a club where you're valued, you're playing minutes, and then by the end of the season, he looked like their most dangerous player, probably.
He looked very good. And there's a bit of a connection, isn't there?
Yeah, for me.
Yeah,
he's actually dating my cousin. So make sure you're on your best behaviour in Coventry, Rafa, or else there'll be problems. But I think their ins. I think they've actually done really well in the transfer market. To be honest, I think they've been smart with their ins. Obviously, you've got Luke Bratton from Sydney FC,
which we'll touch on a bit more after. But that's crazy move. A captain from Sydney FC, and he's a top player, top guy, top player.
In this league, as a number 6,
he's
old.
Best.
He's older now,
but he's still moving around, all right. He loves his goal.
Like he's one of those. Like he's a Neil Kilkenny. He's an Isaias. He's that type of player that you just give him the ball and he literally can just dictate the whole play. He's that quarterback type of number 6. Unbelievable passing range. Very smart. Knows the league. Experienced.
Yeah, very good signing.
It's a great signing. And then they got obviously Yakalish from Melbourne City, who I think did well without lighting the world on fire last year. I think Melbourne City were probably, they took a while to get going. I think if they were probably as good as they were in the previous years, he probably would have got a few more assists.
I think it was hard. He had a bit of competition as well. And again, you go to MacArthur, there's less competition.
Yeah.
Where City, you had a few more players that were there and maybe just didn't get that confidence because he didn't start well, and then had, I think, maybe it was a couple of injuries or it was out the side. But yeah, he scored a couple of crackers in the cup game against Newcastle the other week. So if you get him firing, and it's kind of the same story for Chris Economides. You don't go from being a very, very good player like he was to not being good enough to start in the A-League, obviously. But confidence, injuries, just lack of form. It's so many things. If you're not feeling the love, it can be a tough place, professional football. So good move for him, I think.
I think so. I think he needed to get out of victory. I think by the end of it, the pressure, the expectation probably from the fans, even the coach to an extent, I don't know, but it starts to weigh on you a little bit too much. And I think when you can start to see it in your performances, then it's probably the time to make that move. So hopefully he can get back. And then obviously big Harrison Sawyer, another NPL product who's been rewarded for their obviously their seasons in the NPL, but also the Australia Cup. And that's why it is so important. And this year more than ever, you see probably more NPL teams actually making those rounds of 16, quarterfinals, semi-finals. Obviously South Melbourne are still in it. So we will see with that one. Harrison Sawyer's obviously cup tied, but he's going to be, you know, potentially one to link up with Germain this year. For me, Germain is their key player.
Yeah.
Such a smart footballer. I worry with losing De Villa who he's going to link up with, because he's definitely not the type of player to get the ball and dribble the whole team. He needs, I think, smart players around him.
What about Danny Da Silva? Did you see that?
Yeah. What happened? He left
They
and then
announced
came
that he
back.
left, and then he's back.
Yeah. So
It's a strange one, but sorry to interrupt you, but that was why when you're talking about that, for me, he's that number 10 that actually can be a De Villa replacement.
100%.
And I think last year he had a very quiet season, but the year before he was unbelievable, playing kind of a bit deeper.
I think probably over the last 3, 4, 5 years, we've seen glimpses.
Yeah.
We've also seen probably a couple of injuries that have kind of ruined his momentum.
Yeah.
If he gets fully fit,
he's a good player.
He's always been a top player. Like from such a young age, you could see that he was a special talent. So
and I wonder what happened.
Yeah.
Must have been thinking that something was going to come up overseas, and then must have fell through, and then it was strange to announce that someone's leaving and then they're back. But anyway, he obviously likes the Bulls. He's going to have to be the main man with De Villa obviously not being there anymore. So maybe that bit of responsibility is good for him. So let's see. Obviously, we've recorded this prior to the semi-final of the Cup, so we don't know if they're in the final. But either way, they've shown enough in the Cup competition that they're going to be a decent side. But going on to the next club, Melbourne City, another big list of outs and ins, and kind of like a changing of the guard, you would say, for the last 5-6 years. They had a good core group of players. Obviously, when Chris Norbo was there with Monbets, a little bit of Joycey, they kind of were building. They had some success, changed coaches, and then last year they kind of fell away. Obviously, Rado Vidicic took over. Didn't work out too well.
No.
Aurelio Vidmar's come in as an interim. He's got the job permanently, but this is his first pre-season, first time building the squad. You look at the outs and you've got Jamie McLaren,
massive,
best goal scorer in the history of the A-Leagues. It's hard to replace that. And at the end of the day, he wasn't in form, but he still, what did he score last year? Probably 10, 12, 13 goals or something. I don't know.
For probably his worst year.
Yeah, so,
in the last 5.
He obviously felt like it was the right time to go. He got a good offer from India, ATK, so good on him. Tolgay Arslan, who was, our prediction for Johnny Warren. I think he was very hardly done by not to win that. Strange one how he's forced to move because apparently he wanted to go back to Germany to be close to the family, and then he signs in Japan. So I'm not sure. I think, probably should have been demanding a transfer fee because he's gone to Sanfrecce Hiroshima, who are a big club, and he's probably on good money.
I don't think Melbourne City knew too much about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
To be honest, I think it's a bit of a
blindside.
I think he's done the old I want to go home, and had this one on the back burner.
Yeah,
so
but it's a good move. He scored a lot of goals there.
He's gone there and done unbelievably, which obviously they came out and said that he was aging, but for me he was the best player in the league last season.
Exactly.
And in that All Stars team when we were training, like this guy was
just... All-Stars?
Yeah, I was in the All Stars. Sorry, Stef. But this guy was a player. Like he's one of those players. Like he never looks like he's under pressure.
Yeah.
He just always looks like he's got time on the ball. Even in tough situations, like he just makes it look easy. Like what a player, and a massive loss.
And to do well in the J League, how he's done, not really. He was kind of in the off season. He's come in. I think there's a German coach there, so he obviously likes him, knows him. But he scored a lot of goals, and they're actually in Sydney FC's group in the ACL too. So we're going to get another glimpse of him. We're going to be able to see him. But Curtis Good, another unbelievable player for them for years, centre back. He's gone to Thailand, so. These players obviously need to cash in, essentially. That's the opportunity. Nuno Reyes has been there for quite a while, as you touched on earlier, with Scotty Galloway. And then you've got
Terry
Antonis. I think he signed in Thailand as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. A lot of good players out, but then you look at their ins so far. Natty Atkinson is just, another deadline day signing, back from Hearts. Obviously, things didn't work out well there, which was surprising because, your old club, Hearts, I think he was potentially shown the door. I'm surprised he didn't pick up something in Europe.
Yeah, look, it's a strange one because he's been involved with the Socceroos a lot, played at World Cups. Yeah, like really weird one because from all accounts, like Naismith really, really liked him. Over there. So look, I'm not sure what's happened, but he gets a refresh of his career. Hopefully he can come back and go back again because he's a top player. He showed that last time he was in Australia, but I'm sure he's looking forward to get back to Melbourne. I think players crave that sense of, you know, being wanted.
Yes.
And I think that's what he's going to get because he did so well there last time.
And the rumours were that Victory went after him.
Yeah, which I don't really understand. I know the connection with PK, but if I'm Nate, I'm thinking, well, they've got Jace Guerrier, they've got Rawlins, and you know, look, he's still got competition with Talbot at Melbourne City. I'm not saying that he's going to walk in and play every game.
But
I think it naturally it does make a little bit more sense than going to Melbourne.
And
Victory.
he was an academy player, obviously
exactly
from Tasmania, but gone to Melbourne City, so it makes sense for them to bring him back. He's on a 3-year deal, so that's enough of him. We'll maybe look to get him on here. But Andreas Kuhn, Austrian midfielder, again probably butchered that one, but majority of the career spent in Austria. It looks like a number 8. I looked at his stats. Not too many goals and assists, but you know, one of these players, I think probably similar to that. Was it what was the Dutch boy, the orange head boy, not Van der Ven.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's
I know. It was something similar to that. But the Dutch boy, who I think he'll be a similar player to him. Good runner, and those are the players in this league that actually do really well. So interesting to see how he goes. Then you've got Germán Ferreira from Argentina, centre back.
Have you seen him? Have you seen a photo of him? Guys, if you're listening to this podcast, look this guy up because we played them in a friendly not long ago, and this guy is seriously scary. He's tatted up from head to toe.
I thought you were going to say he's a good-looking rooster.
Oh, like decent-looking rooster, but fuck me, he is. Yeah, if he's coming near you and he's a centre half, you're going here. Just take the ball. I don't want any problems.
3 a.m. walking out of bar band you're steering clear of him.
Steer clear.
You knock his drink out and you say, "Sorry, mate, I'll buy you another one."
Exactly right. You know, in a club, you're not wanting to look at him the wrong way, but
interesting.
Yeah,
did he look alright?
Yeah, he looks quite good. Like, I think he's going to be very, very aggressive. You know, that Argentinian, that South American typical centre back that's not going to mind smashing you. Probably pick up a fair share of yellow cards. I could be absolutely stereotyping him right now, but we'll see. Yeah.
But Kai Truant and a young boy, probably. I think the model that maybe City need to go down. They tried to get Josh Nisbet as well, and I think. They're a club. They're a destination club because of obviously the links with Manchester City and owning multiple clubs that they can help players get back overseas. I thought Nisbet was going to go there as well, and I think getting those middle-aged to younger players in the A-League is kind of what they need to do to build, and whether they get them overseas or keep them for a long period of time. Kai Truant's one of those. I think he's good enough to go overseas, but if not, and Melbourne City having like a Curtis Good, you have him for 5-6 years. Before he goes to Asia, that's amazing. But it'll be interesting to see how those two work well together. And then Jonathan Cohen, the Israeli international, who's just signed literally last minute. I think he's going to be probably the
Arslan replacement.
Yeah, well, I think he's a winger striker more so, but I think he's going to be like he needs to be that big signing from. You know, he was bought for a decent amount of money. He's gone to Italy to play as well. His numbers look good. But you just don't know what you're going to get. So we'll see how he settles in. Besides that, you've got Tilio permanently. That's last year he played only 2 or 3 games because he got injured. I think
it was a bit of a disaster spot. And you come back from Celtic and you've not played many minutes.
Scored that amazing goal against Sydney, and that was about it.
That's the thing, but everyone knows Tills and everyone knows what he can do. And at his best, you know, for me, he's probably the best winger in the league or one of very close. You know, even Lecky, you know, if you get him on the park for the full season, that's like another signing as well because you've got, you know, Lecky, Naboo. Like, you're talking about a City team that's maybe revamped and losing a lot of players, but then you know you've still got Jego, you know, a Socceroo in the midfield. You've got Ugarkovic. You know, they've still got such a strong
Aziz
team.
Bayic back
Aziz
from
Bayic is back.
Al-Azhar. So yeah, it's still a very, very good side. We'll see how they go. I think, the striker, and that's what will be interesting if this Jonathan Cohen plays as a striker, because that's probably where, Max Caputo is getting touted as, he's the one taking over from Jamie McLaren. He was my young player to watch for them. He's got injured though.
He's broken his leg, unfortunately.
So he'll come back hopefully at the end of the season. And
I think it's actually only like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, so it's, you still then, you got to get fit, you got to be sharp. But, like sometimes as a young player, when you get a bad injury like that, it makes you appreciate football a lot more, but also it makes you become more professional because
100%.
You don't realise all the stuff you need to do to stay on the park until you get injured. So maybe a blessing in disguise for him. He can work on his body, get himself fitter, stronger, come back hungry for, that Christmas time, New Year's period. But yeah, I've gone for Tilio as the main player there. I think if he gets back to his best, he's the most watchable player in the league. What was it? The Tilios.
Yeah.
The Tilios. I wonder if they'll come back out. But yeah, he's the one.
He's a gun.
He's the one. And, you look at that front 3, 4, whatever it is. Tilio, Lecky, I don't know when the Boo even then fits in. And then Cohen, it's pretty dangerous. Plus you got young boys. They've obviously got a good academy that they've signed a few players. So let's see how Aurelio Vidmar goes with a full pre-season. We've got them in a couple of weeks in our last hit out before the season starts. So maybe a bit more information closer to that.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So that's all we've got time for part 1. We're going to be reviewing the rest of the teams in the next episode.